Good morning and welcome to day 8. Alexa, what's the date?
Good morning, Joey. Today is Wednesday, January 8th.
Yes, welcome to day 8 of JanuDAILY. I'm struggling, you guys. I have a hard time this morning. Got smart and went back to doing a double batch of the bagels. We hadn't really made them over like the holidays because of course the holidays are full of like yummy breakfast casseroles. And this is definitely something that I use to like make our days easier and make breakfast a little bit easier for like the day-to-day. 4 bagels was just not worth the effort, if I'm being honest. I needed more out of that batch. The effort is the same for a double batch as a single batch. If I had a bigger KitchenAid, I'd probably do a triple batch. But for today, double batch it is. I'm not gonna show it again just because I have just done that. But I did wanna go ahead and check in with you guys. It's just to say good morning, say hi. How are you guys doing? How are you feeling like the year is starting out? I feel like we put a lot of pressure on the new year, and sometimes that can be really good because it like motivates people to show up better and differently and like make some really good and important changes in their lives. But sometimes it can have the opposite effect. And I feel like if you're not feeling like super motivated and super jazzed, the start of the year can be kind of disheartening, especially to see like what you think is everybody else thriving. So I am curious about how you're doing, how you're feeling. I am feeling surprisingly good. I think this little project has accomplished exactly what I was hoping it would accomplish, and we're only 8 days in. So I already feel just better generally and wake up a little bit more excited for the day generally, which is how I used to be standardly. And I don't really know why or how that changed, but I used to be the person that like my alarm would go off and I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do this, which sounds ridiculous. And I know that not everybody's like that, but I just like enjoyed what I was doing in my days. And like, I think that's what you do on purpose, right? Like if you design the right kind of life, you don't wake up dreading your life. And so it was really disorienting for me to get to a place where the alarm would go off and I'd just be like, meh, because nothing really in my life had changed. The circumstances hadn't really changed. It was like how I was feeling had changed, which is mental health. And I talk a little bit about that in some other videos about how, like, about my journey with like getting help and diagnosed and medication and all of those things. And those things are great and they are important. Exercise is great and important, and that is definitely something I don't have the video up, and I feel like it's maybe a little silly to put up now, but I guess it still matters. I did an entire 30-day challenge where I was lifting weights every day, let me try this again. For 30 days, I was lifting weights 5 days a week, and it wasn't necessarily for like a physical purpose. Like it wasn't to necessarily see a change in my body. It was kind of the same, it was kind of along the same lines of this, is to just kind of like get myself doing something and holding myself accountable, something that I knew would have a very positive impact on how I was feeling just in general. And I really enjoyed it. I need to get back into it after the holidays. Things got a little sideways, but I used to have a podcast called Joyful by Design, and it was technically about like designing a business that was joyful by design. But a lot of the principles could be applied to your daily life. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now, is just intentionally designing days that make it a little bit more fun to get out of bed in the morning. So yeah, I'm curious about how you're feeling. And if you're not feeling super great, first of all, I want to let you know that I'm here. And you can DM me, message me, find me on Instagram, whatever. I'm here for you. I know what that feels like, and it's hard to feel that way. I don't know how much I could offer you aside from just comfort and a place to talk, but I get it, and it does get better. I promise it does get better, and you are worth investing into to get better, however that looks for you. And if you are feeling a little bit more motivated and things like that, I'd love to hear more about what has helped you feel that way and like what you wake up excited about in the morning. I mean, sometimes for me, it's just like, I love my kid, I love my family, I love my dogs, I love all, but sometimes it's just my cup of coffee. And I'm like, oh, I'm so excited to just like have my cup of coffee and sit in my bed and scroll the internet for a hot minute, like read my book for a hot minute. So it's about finding like those little moments of joy. So I am curious about how you're feeling. I have very doughy hands, so I'll be right back. I also know that it can feel very overwhelming and very intimidating to try to make any kind of change, because I feel like we get lost in this idea that to change anything, we have to change everything, and that's not actually true. Sometimes huge change, in fact, a lot of times, huge change can come from just one tiny, minute little like adjustment in your day can make an enormous difference. So I feel like I need to create something that like helps people identify what those changes are, but I'd love to know kind of like where you're at with the start of the new year. I'm gonna finish making these bagels and get back to work for a little while, and then we'll get on to more exciting things for the day. I honestly feel like I should just change the name of my channel to Kitchen and Office Vlogs, because apparently those are the only two places in my house I vlog from recently. It's not always actually going to be the case, but I do want to very quickly catch you up on the sourdough experiment from yesterday. I am very happy to report that it worked. So they did both grow, which is excellent. They didn't quite double, but it's also very cold outside. It's very cold in my house, so that's okay. I'm all right with that. And I'm very actually happy with how they both are behaving. This one is super bubbly, which is very exciting. And they both smell like sourdough. So we are back in business, baby. Happy with those. So I'm gonna go ahead and feed them. I'm going to discard a significant amount because that's apparently where I was going wrong. It's fine. And hope for, I mean, what day are we on? We're on I started on the 2nd of January and it's the 8th today. So we're on day 7, so we've been a week. I think that's a happy place to be in for a week. And I'm gonna keep going for probably another 7 days before I would count this as mature and bake our first loaf of bread with it. But for right now, I'm enjoying the process and I'm happy with what I'm seeing. I was talking to a friend just a few days ago, and because of the fact that I had my son later, you know, obviously he needs to have friends. So a lot of the friends that he has, the parents are much younger than I am, which is fine. I love hanging out with them. They keep me young. And in turn, we also end up finding ourselves having some pretty interesting conversations. In fact, like I keep having these failed podcasts, apparently. It's not failed, we give up on them. I did have a podcast with my Gen Z BFF called POV, which was born out of the fact that we had a lot of really interesting conversations just on our own. We do Marco Polo quite a bit about like kind of the differences in where we're at in our lives and the things that we experienced as millennials versus the things that they're experiencing as Gen Zs, and just trying to get everybody into a place of like better understanding with one another. And I was having a conversation with one of the moms the other day, and they were kind of not really picking my brain necessarily, but just like, you know, by the time you're my age and live the kind of life I've lived, I've experienced some things, and from those experiences I've learned some lessons, and I have the gift of hindsight now where I wish with all of my might that I could just like go back and visit my early 20s, like that version of myself, and give them a hug, tell them to slow the heck down, and just give them some really meaningful advice, because I don't know that I would have been in a place to take it. To be honest, I don't know that any of us are in the place to take it when we're in our 20s. But it did get me thinking, like, if I could go back and visit, I'm filling my coffee pods, by the way. If I could go back and like revisit my 20-year-old self, early 20s, mid 20s, maybe not so much late 20s, because I feel like that would be a whole different host of conversation topics. But like, what advice would I give myself? What are the things that I so desperately needed to hear at that point in my life? Now, to set the scene a little bit, let's see. I graduated college at 21, turned 22 shortly after. I was engaged by the time I was like a few months out from being 23, and then I got married like literally 2 weeks shy of turning 24. I dated my high school sweetheart, got engaged to him, married him. We had known each other since we were 13, so it definitely was not like a rushed thing. But looking back, like, we were young. We were really young. We did not have life figured out. Hold, please. Have boys, they said. It'll be fun, they said. I think I remember where I was. I'm not entirely sure. I will say that I'm not I'm not like the biggest girly girl in the world, but there are just so many things having a little boy I just was not prepared for. It's okay. It's okay. It's an adventure, right? I think what I was saying is that we got married. We weren't like rushing into it by any means, but we were really young and like we didn't have our lives together at all. Like we really I don't know, we didn't really know what we were doing. And I think that made our lives a little bit unnecessarily hard. We were just so in love and ready to get married. And I think there are things that if I had had just a little bit of like meaningful conversation with some adults in my life, could have probably been a little bit more prepared for that like season of my life. That all leads me to like my very first point, or like my very first piece of advice that I would give to my younger self, is that like the timeline that you have in your head, that one, you know which one I'm talking about. You know exactly which one I'm talking about. You thought about it the second I said it. It's arbitrary. It doesn't mean anything. It's made up. You made it up. You made it up based on either movies you'd seen, people you know and what they did, opinions of your parents, opinions of the people around you, fears and things that you've told yourself about yourself. And it's all made up. And I'm not saying that to hurt your feelings. I'm actually saying that to give you a little bit of relief and to allow you to like exhale a little bit, slow down a little bit, take the pressure off yourself. I can only imagine, because like when I was that age, like when I was getting married, all we had was Facebook, and Facebook was not what Facebook is now. Like social media was very nuanced when I was getting out of college and all of that, if that tells you any bit about how old I am. And even then, I still felt like I was running some kind of imaginary race. And I don't know who I think I was running it against, but I can only imagine that it's worse now. And I would hold myself and I would tell them, please, for the love of all that is holy, do not allow what other people are doing or where Susie down the street is in her arbitrary timeline influence the decisions that you are making for your life, especially when they are life-altering, lifelong decisions. I know it feels like when you get out of college that it's like a race against the clock to get the whole entirety of your life all neatly lined up and figured out, and you can't breathe until it is. Forever is a really long time, and you have forever to figure it out. So don't let some like arbitrary timeline rush you into making some really big decisions before you really even know who you are yet, which also kind of leads me into the next piece of advice I would give my younger self, is like take some time to get to know the adult version of yourself. The truth is, when we get to be like in our early 20s, we're a product of the people we've spent the most time with. We are the product of the things that we've consumed, the schools we've gone to, the activities we've taken, all of it. I mean, granted now I think that world is a little bit larger, but for me growing up, I mean, it was limited to like essentially my school district. And I didn't realize this until I was in my 30s. And I feel like, again, my life would have been a lot easier, a lot sooner if I had realized it a little bit earlier, that really for those first few years, you're kind of figuring out who you are. And a lot of your adult life is actually kind of unbecoming a lot of what you thought you were. And again, because until we know who we really are, we just kind of adopt and like borrow things from other people until we figure out what feels right for us. And I think that's really the only way we know how to live that's fair. And I just wish that like I would have known that that was a thing I should have been doing, which again feels silly. And I feel like it's probably even harder to do now with the way social media is, because we get so busy just consuming that we don't really spend any time with ourselves to really figure out how we feel about certain things, what our opinions are about certain things. And that can lead us down some really troubling paths, especially when it comes to like who we allow into our world and what kind of friends we have, what kind of job we end up taking, what we tolerate and what we don't tolerate. And there's so much about who I am now that just didn't exist when I was in my 20s. And I know that's just part of how life goes too, but I do wish that I would have been a little bit more aware that I should be more intentional about figuring out who it is that I am as an adult. And the other part of that too is like the cool thing is you're always testing and changing and getting to know yourself and being open to the fact that those things might change. So definitely like take some time to get to know yourself. This is a really important one, and one I still really struggle with, is that you don't have to be everybody's friend. What is happening? Oh, it's an eyelash. I should have expected that because I took a super steamy hot bath a little bit ago, but an eyelash, that was an eyelash falling off and I thought there was a bug on my face. Anyway, the point I was going to make is that you don't have to be everybody's friend. And that's something I'm still really learning because it's outside of my integrity to treat somebody with anything other than like respect and kindness. But for some reason, that's where my brain gets really confused, because just because you're going to treat somebody with respect and kindness does not necessarily mean that everyone you encounter should be given the gift of offering friendship. And I do that a lot. And it definitely caused me some grief in my early 20s. It still continues to cause me grief even in my mid to late 30s. But not everybody needs to be your friend, and you don't have to offer friendship to everybody. And that doesn't mean you have to be cold or mean or harsh or rude or any of those things. But your friendship is a gift, and it's not a gift that everybody should be given. It's just a lesson I feel like I'll just keep learning over and over again. But if you are the same type of person as I am, which I'm imagining if you're here, you probably are, just remember that like you can be kind without offering friendship to everyone. Yes, buddy. There were two other things that I wanted to share as far as like advice goes, but the chaos of my family being in the house is loud, so I'm in my office now. So keeping in the theme of kitchen and office vlogs, but this one's important too. You do not owe the details of your life to everyone. In fact, I would argue that you don't owe the details of your life to anyone aside from the person you may be married to. It took me, in fact, I would say that I didn't really learn this lesson until last year. Like, you're allowed to just keep certain things private. And I mean, from anybody. It's your life. It's your, like the decisions you and your family are making in your little nucleus don't necessarily have to always be shared. They don't have to be over explained. You get to kind of decide what you're doing with your life. It's whomever's business you're making it, but you don't have to make it everybody's business. And that, I think, is a really powerful place to get to, because it just gets really exhausting feeling like you have to like loop everybody in on everything, and then you have this onslaught of opinions, which you have your people, right? Like, you'll have your people that you go to and whose business you make things because you value what they have to say. What do you want? I don't know that we have any Whoppers left, but you just ate a cookie, so I think we're probably all done with treats for right now. Like, you'll have your people, and you'll know who those people are, and you trust their opinions, and you may have different people for different things. So you may not always share everything with every person that's, you know, in your little trusted circle. I'm not saying be like secretive, but just, you know, again, you just don't owe your details to every single person. I also realize the irony of saying this to you while I'm talking to a camera where I'm going to upload the details of my life to the internet. But even that, and I used to get a lot of looks because I blogged for so much of my life too, that like, I'm an online person, but I also am very private. So like, it's a very weird conundrum type experience, but it can be possible. Like, you don't have, you get to decide what you share. Like, you get to decide what you share and with whom you share it. So yeah, just take that for what it's worth, because again, I don't think I really learned it until last year, and I probably could have learned it a little bit sooner. And then the other thing is that you're allowed to stand firm. If you're in your early 20s, you're probably still figuring yourself out. You're figuring out what you want with your life, and you may feel very uncertain about a lot of things, which might make you feel a little unsure about the things that you probably actually certainly know, and that keeps you in this like wobbly place. Know yourself well enough to know what it is that you actually know and stand firm on those things. Obviously, be flexible enough to have and engage in healthy dialogue and be open to the idea that you could potentially be wrong or have your mind changed. But on the things that you're pretty certain on, you're allowed to stand firm. And the thing is, and I'm especially talking to the women that I would imagine most of you are women that are following me. Compromise goes both ways. So you don't always have to be the one giving in. You don't have to be the only one like sacrificing things to be amenable. You're allowed to engage and say, hey, like obviously we're not gonna see eye to eye on this. Let's find a compromise, and you both compromise. It doesn't always have to be you. And I don't know that, I certainly know that I wasn't in that place when I was in my early 20s. I don't even know that I'm necessarily as firmly in that place now as I would like to be. And it's always a journey, right? You're like always learning and growing and getting stronger every day, but like just find out who you are, know the things that are important to you, know the things that you know and what you believe to be true until you're proven otherwise, right? And stand firm on those things. You're allowed to. You're not being difficult. You're not being hard to work with. God, I hate that. Oh, they're just being difficult. No, we have opinions and we're allowed to share those. And we're allowed to know what we know. So yeah, those are the things that like, as I was talking to my friend the other day, I was like, oh, these are things that I wish I would have known. And I wish every person that's important to me that maybe doesn't know these things could know. I could just like be a little fairy godmother floating around and like just offering much learned, much lived, experienced lessons, because some of these are hard to learn, especially when you learn them the hard way. And I'm pretty dang committed to learning every single lesson the hard way. Don't you look at me like that, Campbell. But yeah, like just have fun. It's not that serious. Take yourself seriously, even though it's not that serious. You're allowed to take yourself seriously. And yeah, I just wish I could go back. There's so many things that I think I would have enjoyed a little bit more if I had just known some of these things a little bit sooner. So I hope that helped anybody at any point in their lives. I'm gonna get back to work now. So I ordered some stuff from Amazon. I have every intention at some point here in the very near future to organize this space. So if you don't know, this is like where I have all my nail stuff and like my makeup. I'm trying to figure out how to get all that organized in here. I have this mirror that like supposedly has like lights around the edge that are supposed to help when I'm doing my makeup. I can't even plug it in because I need a new power surge protector thingamajig. So there's just so many things like I need to get organized in this space, and trying to like up level my nail stuff. If you don't know, like I used to be really into doing my nail. In fact, that's how my blog ended up kind of taking off. It was the obsession with nail polish, the combination of blogging with Pinterest really kind of like, but some of the stuff I've gotten now are for those plans of like organizing my life, but also up-leveling my nail stuff. So I'm just very quickly gonna show you what I got. This I think might be the most exciting thing, and I think I'm actually going to use it in my next manicure, which I think I might try to do this weekend. If you've never done Gel X on your own, or like any kind of like extension based or like builder gel based manicure, it can take a while. So I definitely need to do it at a time that like I've got some help. But this is a basic like DIY kit to make my own cat eye polishes, which I have several, and I'm actually wearing one now. You're not gonna tell. Anyway, I'm wearing one now that I basically maneuvered the magnetic pieces to be, or like magnetic particles to be towards the base of my nail, so it looks like a French manicure. But the other ones that I got, I was excited because I wanted like different color magnetic particles, but I still wanted the base of the polish to be clear. And for some reason, all of the ones that I got, only one, the base was clear. Everything else had like a tinted base to it, which changes the color of the nail polish you're painting it over. So these are all of the pigments. There's all different, I'm in a very yellow light. Hold on, let's see if I can bring you over here. So this is all of the different like magnetic particles, and it comes with the magnet. It's like a 4-pronged magnet. I have several, so this wasn't all that important to me. And then it also comes with the polishes to mix them into. But the cool thing is, aside from just being the magnetic particles that you can put into like a clear-based polish to maneuver, they can also be used as chrome polishes. And that's actually how I think I'm gonna use them for my next manicure, which I'm excited to show you guys. And I'll bring you guys along as I'm doing it. So I think I'm doing that on Saturday, not entirely sure. I did also go ahead and get a new updated set of nail art brushes because the ones I have are 10 years old and they are in embarrassing shape. So these are super cheap on Amazon. I'll link them down below. But I liked that it came with like an assortment, but then also a couple of them had the dotting tool feature, which is awesome. But I do, like I said, I need to figure out how I want to organize all this stuff. I think one of the weekends that I have in January, I might try to get that all worked out. And then this is a bunch of nail bits for my e-file, so that'll be good. And then I got these. I would love to know what companies think they have to tape things to the nth degree. I bought a Gel X kit. I don't know that I have any of this stuff out, but for my Gel X like initial set of stuff, I got a Gel X set that's from Beetles, which is super great. I highly recommend it. It's been wonderful, but they didn't come in any kind of box. So I bought these just in case I have anything else that needs to go into any kind of box. Right now, all of the gel extensions are just in little plastic baggies. So I thought I could organize them in these. Came, I think, 4 in the pack. And that's it. That's all I got. But it was exciting to me. And at some point, I'm going to actually do something with all of these things. Today is not that day, but it was exciting to get the package anyway. And have what I need to do my next manicure, which again, I'm very excited about. But it is getting to be about dinner time, which then leads us into bath and bed. And then we immediately go bath and bed. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and end the vlog here. And thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope that like that big sister chit chat that we had helps somebody. And if it resonated with you, please share it with somebody that you think could use it. And if it resonated with you, also go ahead and subscribe, hang out with me. I'm doing this every day through the end of January. And from there, I'll have more regular vlogs moving forward. So if you think we could be friends or you just like the content you're seeing here, please hang out, please subscribe. I'm hoping to make it to 1,000 subscribers by like June if we could, so that would be exciting. And yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and go make another DIY crunch wrap with leftovers. I'm actually really curious. Actually, comment down below, are you guys a leftover family? Because we're leftover people. I rely heavily on leftovers. In fact, I plan most of my meals with the intention of having leftovers so I can make my life a little bit easier a couple of nights a week. And I also really like leftovers. I also really like cooking things that can be used as leftovers in many different ways. So anyway, I'm gonna go. I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Thanks for being here. Bye.